Sometimes you lose a game and you don't have much to regret. You just played an opponent who is very inspired, and this is the case of this game. I was playing against Ernesto Inarkiev in the World Cup 2007, and he played an amazing game, and actually I've played a very good game as well, but I've lost, and I could go home just happy about it because the game is so good and it's so complicated. And well, it happens sometimes, and I find this kind of games the easiest to take actually. If you lose such a game, and well, nothing to say, just enjoy, and well, it's gonna happen not very often, of course, because to play such an inspired opponent, luckily it doesn't happen so often. Okay, let's enjoy this game. Played e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. Bishop c4, and he goes for knight f6. Of course, bishop c5 is the other safe alternative. But he goes for knight f6, and for this game I have prepared this knight g5, which is a risky line, this fegatello, and starts the chaos here. Yeah? It starts the strange positions will arise normally from this position. And it's a very interesting line. It's hard to understand even for a computer nowadays. So, okay, d5 is the normal move. E takes d5. Knight a5. This is all very common. Bishop b5 check. c6. This pawn sacrifice is the most normal as well. Take, take. This even has been played by Fischer back in the days. And now there are many moves actually for white. It's very common to just go away with the bishop to e2, but also some people try to go to d3 and even to f1, I think. But okay, for this game I prepared queen f3, which was almost new at the time, and it was a very interesting alternative. Well, of course, now I'm pinning the pawn on c6. The rook is behind, so he cannot take the bishop. And the idea is now also that I can bring my bishop back maybe to d3 or something, and I'll have space for my knight to come to e4 normally, which is not all the time happening. So it's a very interesting move actually. Here he played rook b8, which is normal, but he could also play bishop e7, which looks very, very interesting, just giving the c6 pawn again, and he will have a very nice compensation here. Take, 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 and then bishop d7, and black is 2 pawns down, but he'll just castle next move, and he'll have a very good initiative actually. His development is very good, and my knight on g5 is a little bit in trouble. I need to move my queen now. I haven't castled yet, all my pieces are just not playing, but in exchange of that I'm 2 pawns up. So it's a very complicated position. He went rook b8, which is a similar idea, giving anyway the pawn on c6. And now I played bishop d3. I think it's a very good move. I think once more, if I take on c6, it's difficult to play for white after this, because he'll have very good compensation. Probably the move here is knight d7, because now after bishop d7 it might be a little problem if I go queen c4, attacking on f7, and it's a little bit annoying because you need to go queen e7, and it's not the idea, of course, because now you cannot develop your pieces. So in general, this move knight d7 is very good, and once more black has a good compensation here. Anyway, the idea was to come bishop d3 and just try now to develop your pieces with maybe b3, knight c3, bishop b2, or even a3, b4 sometimes. Short castling normally. This knight on g5 can come to e4, and white is a pawn up. He played now bishop e7, and well, there are a number of moves here as well. I could have gone b3, which is also very interesting, and I played knight c3, which looks, of course, playable as well. On knight c3, Still, I mean, still nothing special is happening. I'm a pawn up, but he has a good compensation because my pieces are in a little bit strange positions. The bishop on d3 doesn't allow to play d3 and develop my bishop on c1. The knight on g5 is not doing much, and the queen on f3, of course, developed a little bit too quickly. So he has some compensation for the pawn. Played castle, and here I went a3. It's a little bit strange move, but I can play b4 sometimes, and also I control the b4 square for the rook or for any other piece which wants to come here, and b4 is coming at some point, so it's an interesting move. In fact, my opponent played here c5, which is very interesting because he stops my idea of playing b4 and also opens up the diagonal for his bishop to come to b7. Well, I played b3 now. I wanted to stop c4. Another interesting possibility was just to sacrifice this pawn to play just b4, and after cb4, ab4, I'll activate my pieces, the rook on a1 and the bishop on c1, and it will be quite interesting position. And well, but white needs as well to see what is happening after c4. It's another move to consider right now, which is also quite unclear. Anyway, b3 is not the best move, but it's a decent move, let's say. And now he played a very interesting idea. He played rook b6. He has lots of ideas with this move. Well, first of all, if he goes bishop b7, his rook on b8 will be out of play, and now from b6 it will be still working. Of course, he can use the third rank to move around also if he needs to, and right now he's also trying to bring the knight through c6 to d4. So it's a very interesting move, this rook b6. Computer suggests something like g6, which is as well possible because you stop this bishop from working now. The bishop on d3 will not work anymore, and this bishop will not have a very good square because on c4 could be taken and on d3 is doing nothing, and so this g6 was a very interesting move as well. Rook b6, I played castle, which is normal, and he plays bishop b7. Still, the game is not getting too wild, but it will come soon. Now, we are playing basically decent moves. So bishop b7, I played queen h3, I'm attacking on h7, and now he's forced to do something. He played h6, which looks normal. Knight g4. And here, he has also some interesting ideas. He could even go for this mini sacrifice on c4 after b takes c4, knight e4, and he'll gain back one pawn and he'll still be very active. His pieces are better than mine in general, but you cannot forget that he's still a pawn down. c4 was interesting, but he went for a sharper idea. He played knight h7. And the idea of this is that now he wants to play with f5 and chase away my knight on e4, and also this move knight g5 might be coming if this knight from e4 is moving, and knight g5 will be attacking the queen on h3, winning a tempo, and this pawn on f5 will come to f4 or to play e4. So basically I'm forced to play something fast here because he's threatening very strong ideas. And I find out that b4 is a very, very interesting move, actually. This idea was already playable before, and I thought now it's a very good idea because it slows down his attack a little bit, because I'm creating some counterplay, and it's not so easy for him to focus on the attack on the king side. If I give him some tempi, this is very, very strong. But b4 right now stops it by the moment. It gives me some air to breathe. He took c before, a before. Okay, I'm winning a tempo, of course, because I'm attacking the knight, so he needs to do something about it. He took bishop before, and now I play bishop a3. And I'm getting rid of my very passive bishop on c1 and changing pieces. Of course, if you're under attack, it's always a good idea to change pieces, to try not to get mated. And apart from this, of course, I'm waiting the c5 square for the knight, because now after I change these bishops, I'll have this extra square for the knight. c5 square is very good because I will be attacking the bishop on b7. And also this knight on a5 is a little bit in trouble very often. He went here, f5. And well, I remember also, of course, we both went into time trouble. This player, Inarkiev, he's often going into time trouble, although he's a good player in this with this nerve and tense situation. And well, I had also this problem a lot. I think nowadays I have solved it a little bit, but of course here it's hard to decide, for example, whether it's better to play knight c5 immediately or first to take on b4 and then knight c5. It's the kind of decision that it's very hard to understand for a human. In general, you shouldn't spend much time on this because it's very complicated, and I really don't know which one is better. Anyway, of course, computers suggest that knight c5 is maybe a little bit better, and of course I played bishop b4. And probably I thought a lot about it. So sometimes you need to be practical and just decide that, well, I'm not sure how it's going this, and if you don't see a clear way in a few minutes, just you need to make a move. And at least it will not be the worst move after 20 minutes. It can be the worst move after 5. The same when this typical approach, which move to like you need to put a rook in the center, and you don't know which one, and the joke is like you should think a lot and choose one, and the moment you are completely sure, then you should move the other one, of course. So this is a little bit the same, but try not to think too much. Well, bishop b4, rook b4, knight c5. Now he played knight g5, winning a tempo on my queen. Of course, I'm already creating some trouble in his position, and also I had knight e6 idea. So with this move, knight g5, he stops this idea with knight e6, and he also wins a very important tempo. Okay, I played queen e3 is the only move. And now he went bishop a8. Bishop c6 was also a very interesting alternative, but bishop a8 it's very logical as well, because he can now come back with the knight to c6, and this knight on a5 is a little bit in trouble. So it's very interesting to see that we are both a little bit uncoordinated here. I mean, I have this bishop on d3, which is not doing much, and this pawn on g2 is a little bit weak. I'm a little bit afraid of tricks here, and this rook on b4 might come to g4. His pawns in the center are very good. He might come with e4, f4. So it's a very complex position, and it looks dangerous for both, because also his pieces, his knight on a5 is out of play, and all the pieces are in strange positions. It's very hard to understand this kind of position. I have played f4. Maybe f3 would have been more precise, but it's not that obvious. I mean, it looks logical, of course. We all heard that it's a good idea to put the pawns in front of a bishop. Two pawns together, they stop. They make a wall against the bishop. And in this case, they are also controlling the g5 knight. But it also gives some perspectives of opening the position with f4 or e4. Here maybe knight c4 was his best move. And well, it's a very unclear position anyway. I have played f4, which is not a terrible move actually. It's quite interesting. Well, the main idea is, of course, apart from, I mean, well, stopping f4 And, well, queen e5, taking this pawn was just losing immediately to rook g4. These threats are very, very strong now. He's threatening on g2, but apart from this, he's threatening as well knight f3. So this was very bad. And, well, so I played f4 to stop all these ideas. He has to take on f4 probably. I think it's the most natural move. There is not much to do because I'm attacking the knight on g5. So he's taking on f4. I take rook f4. Now he could take on f4 immediately or go rook e8 first. Once more, it's hard to decide if the rook is better on e8 or f8. Here is an open file, but on the other hand, on f8 is protecting his pawn, and it might create some ideas with f4 later. So once more, it's a difficult decision. Rook f4 was also absolutely possible, and after queen f4, then now to go something like knight e4, and it's super unclear position. So he went rook e8, and now, well, I'm not really sure why I went for such a sharp position, because we started to be short on time here. And I could have just simply gone something like queen g3 or something. And at this position, I'm not so sure what's happening here. After rook f4, queen f4, it's a very, very unclear situation, because, I don't know, something like knight e4 now, and the queen is coming to d4 with check. So I basically need to take this knight. He'll take with bishop maybe, and it might be around equal. When I've mentioned already in a different video that when you are not sure what's happening, very often it's around equal position. Very often. It's so, well, here it was a difficult decision, and I had also, apart from the move I played, I've played rook b4, but I could have played as well queen e8, giving the queen in a different way. After queen e8, rook b4 is still very complicated position. I have two rooks for a queen, which in theory is a little bit of some material advantage, but on the other hand, the queen in such an open position is very, very dangerous, because it can create threats to my king very, very easily. And I think my king is a little bit more exposed here. So I think that's why I decided to take rook b4, giving the queen like this, because now after d3, I think my pawn is kind of protecting myself, my king a little bit. Yeah. He played knight c6 here. Looks logical, and here we started to play quite good actually, because we had a very short amount of time, and it was a very, very complicated, still a very complicated position. So knight c6, I played rook b5, which is probably the only move. Other moves ran into this problem, ran into queen e7, and now I'm under double attack, e3 and c5. So rook b5 is a very good move. And now he played a very, very interesting idea. He went f4. He wants to open up the position, and he wants to have this possibility to go queen d4, so I cannot really take on f4. And here, well, I could have played something like rook d1, but also he has these ideas with queen e8, and now queen e3 is coming, and this queen might come to the king side at some point. And, well, for example, ef4, knight h3 check is a crazy line. gh3, queen e3 check. I need to come to f1 because I don't want to go into this diagonal. And g2 h1, this bishop will crush me. So I go to f1 and queen h3, and this might end up in a draw, in some perpetual check or something. Because it's hard for him to activate this knight and bishop without check, because then he'll give me the possibility to go rook b8 check and start also with my counterplay. So rook d1 was also very interesting. I have played h4, which is a little bit strange move on the other way, because this, I'm chasing away the knight, but on the other hand, I'm opening my king a little bit, and it's really, really dangerous. And well, now it starts the craziness already. We are down to a few minutes each, like 4 or 5 minutes, and he goes with this move, which I probably just missed, f3. I thought he'll just go something like knight f7, and I'm not really sure what I wanted to do, but there are a number of moves right now which are very, very interesting. There are, for example, rook f1 or bishop c4, and this knight is pinned, and it's a very complex position. Hard to say who is better and why, actually. Even computer is not really sure. You need to let him think a lot, because it's a very, very complicated position. I mean, but if you lose such a game like this one, and well, you cannot regret yourself, really. I mean, just go easy on it, because it can happen, really. Okay, my opponent goes f3, which is a very, very interesting move. And now, well, his idea is that if I take on g5, his move queen g5 is just killing me, because it's attacking e3 and g2. So I'm basically lost here. H5 is losing. And I have played knight e4. There was other moves like g3, for example, but this is a super hard move to make, actually, because it gives this square to the knight. It gives ideas with queen c7 to attack g3. It gives the possibility to play f2, sacrificing the pawn. So it's super hard to play such a move. And there are a million moves. Rook a4 was very interesting, because now both rooks on the b and a file will cover lots of squares and will protect my king from the side, which is very rare, but it was also a very interesting move. So there was lots of possibilities. I decided to play knight e4. As I mentioned before, well, if you're under attack, it's a good idea to change pieces in general. So I decided, okay, let's stop this craziness a little bit. He took on e4. He's now forced, because I'm taking hg5, so he needs to do something about his knight. So he decided to take. I took with the knight, and now he takes fg2. And well, now it's my move, and he's basically trying to play queen h4 and queen h1, for example. This is his main idea. And maybe I should have played something like knight f2 to protect against this. Queen h4, now bishop e4. This is very subtle, and maybe it's still around equal the position. But it's so complicated, because now he doesn't have much of a plan, but on the other hand, I mean, my king is super weak. So any check or anything what happens can be very annoying. And probably this move I played now, king g2, is a little bit strange. But it's not that obvious, actually. But of course it's a dangerous move. But I didn't find this idea with knight f2 and bishop e4. And probably that's why I decided to just take this pawn and try now to run with the king to detour somewhere safer. He could have taken on h4 here. And I think black is already slightly better, or somehow better here. He decided to go queen e8. I think it's a very good game. It doesn't mean that all the moves are the best by computer. But it means that for the amount of time we had and for the million options that we had, I think it's a very decent game. And also, we need to take into account that it was a World Cup game. So basically, it's a match and you have lots of nerves and everything. And I think it's, yes, it's very difficult to play such games in a very precise way. We can see this in World Championship matches very often, where normally they don't play at their best strength, actually. Even players like Carlsen or Anand or whoever is playing these World Championships, it's very hard to perform at your best when you're under pressure. Queen e8, I went rook a b1, which is interesting because I'm stopping the knight from moving, because now I'll have this idea with rook b8. He played a6. It's a very good move because it forces my rook to move now. And the idea is pretty simple. He wants to start moving this pawn and creating problems with this pawn, and then with the other pieces he'll create problems with to my king. But it's a very, very deep conception, really, because right now here it's very hard to imagine this pawn on a7 can create any trouble. But in fact, it was very unpleasant, this plan, especially in time trouble, of course. But he played a6 is a very good move. I played rook b6, and he went a5, again a very good move. And here it's very unpleasant for white, because I don't know, if for example I go rook a6, then I'm losing to knight b4. So he's winning this square for the knight, and this pin on my king will be winning just for black. Yeah? And I have found the best move here, which is an amazing move also, and I'm very proud of this move because this is not easy at all to play rook 1 b5. But of course, one of the ideas is to stop his idea knight b4. But anyway, rook 1 b5 is a very nice move. Now, if he goes knight b4, then I'll have rook b8. I'll continue with my idea. And now he went a4. Maybe he could play knight d8. This was a little bit better. And this will force me to play king f3. And the game will go on. But still very unclear, because I'm now trying to play just rook b8. And I'll pin everything here. So it gets very complicated, actually. Anyway, he played a4. And now I played again, I think, a very, very decent move. King f2, just escaping from this diagonal, which is very unpleasant. He went a3, I think it's the best move again. He's slowly approaching the critical zone. So, well, I think it's a very interesting move. And he wants to actually discoordinate my pieces, because at some point I need to stop this guy on a3. And this will give him some opportunities to move something around. By the moment I cannot even take this pawn, even if I will go, well, I went in the game rook a6, but I'm not really threatening to take, because he has queen f8 check and then queen a3. And that's why he played, actually, I mean, rook a6 is a very logical move. Now I'm controlling this pawn, I'm attacking this bishop on a8, so I cannot let his queen go away anywhere. So I have a lot of control here. He went queen c8, and here I've decided badly, and it's a pity because both moves look interesting. Rook a4 and rook c5, but this is a mistake. Rook c5 is a mistake, actually. And he punished this mistake very, very good, actually. I could have gone rook a4, and position is around equal here. Of course, around equal, but it's a crazy position, so anything can happen, basically. But this will avoid his next tricks. So let's see what happened here, because I went rook c5. It looks like a very beautiful move as well, because I'm pinning this knight. I have control over the bishop, over the pawn, so it looks like a very good position. And slowly I'm bringing my king to d2, and if I manage to bring my king to d2, then I'll be very safe, and then I'll have a little bit of material advantage, which can give me even the victory here. But he found very, very nice tricks here. He played queen f8 check, king e2, and now knight b4, and this is a very, very nice blow, actually. Because, well, he's attacking the rook now, but the problem is if I take on a3, then I'm losing, basically to just to bishop e4, and this rook on c5 is losing, is lost. So I'm losing something here, some material. And here, this was a very beautiful move, rook f5, but of course with 1 or 2 minutes on the clock, it's super hard to play something like this, because I'm now under attack everything, and to play rook f5 is very, very complicated. Then his best move is queen b8, which is an amazing move as well, but now he has this idea to play Queen H2 sometimes, or just to provoke A2 and start being even closer to A1. And of course my Rook on A6 is under attack. If I take now with Rook A3, he will win with Knight D3, and there is no good move now for White. After CD3, just Queen B2 check, and my Rook is losing. So it's very complicated, really. I didn't play Rook F5. Maybe this was one of the best options, but Rook A5, it's still decent, because I'm just protecting my Rook on C5, and I'm avoiding this change with Bishop E4 and taking. So what he's doing is he went A2, which looks very logical, and here I basically collapsed under pressure. I had no time to decide what to do, and the position is very difficult, still very, very complex. And we've been playing through a very, very complex position, and we are still in a very interesting position after 38 moves. And here with very little time, I just made a bad move. But it was the time again to play Rook F5. And now the idea is after Queen F5 is losing. It will be a Queen F5, it looks good, because after Rook F5, A1 is winning, but I'm not taking the Queen, I'll be taking the Bishop on A8. And he basically has no square for this king. For example, King F7, there is Knight D6, and King H7, there is any move with a knight, like Knight G5, for example, is winning as well. And if Queen F8, then just something like Bishop C4, King H7, take A1, and wow, now it's amazing move, this H5, and it's gonna be mate. This king is just suffering too much. The threat, for example, is to play just Bishop G8, Bishop F7, and Bishop G6, all with checks. And the Queen on A1 doesn't have the time to create problems. Well, anyway, yeah, after A2, Rook F5 was very interesting, still giving the possibility to fight a lot here. It's move 39, and I made a mistake here. I played Bishop C4 check, which is not enough, actually. It looks interesting, but it's not enough, because he just goes King H7, and now my knight is under attack, and if I move it somewhere, let's say, for example, D2 to avoid Queen F3, the problem is he can play Queen C5. And after I take, he just promotes and he's winning. So I've played just Rook B5, and I resigned after he took my knight on E4. So this is an amazing game, actually. It's a very, very entertaining game. And it's a game that you cannot regret losing. It's gonna happen sometimes. So it's well, I haven't seen it for a while, this game, because it's not the time. I have worked a lot before these videos on the games I have lost. But well, I had some other different feelings when I was showing some different games, when I felt like really sad or really disappointed about my play. But in this one, I have nothing to say. He just played a great game, and just congratulations to him. Okay, thanks for watching.